Car Cost Canada provides the dealer cost, a list of rebates, plus discounted interest rates. The link is in the description below. Welcome to the BMW X7, the all-new, brand-new model from BMW. Let's get the 800-pound gorilla out of the room, or the 800-pound grill, I should say. Now, I have to tell you, when I saw this vehicle in pictures, and when I saw it in video, I thought it looked ridiculous. And last week, I drove the BMW X5, and I thought the grill on that new X5 and the lights and the air openings and what have you looked a little bit cartoonish because they're so big. And I encourage you to click on the link here to watch the X5 review. But then I picked up this X7, I dropped the X5 off, I picked up the X7, and I had it for a day or so, and I kept looking at it and thinking to myself, it actually looks way better in person than it does in pictures. So when you see it in pictures, it looks kind of ridiculous with the big grille, and it's really quite emphasized because they have narrow headlamps on this X7. So the headlamps are really quite narrow, making the grille look that much bigger. But when you see it in person, it kind of works because this is a big SUV. And the thing I like most about it is the back. So on the X5, here's a picture of the white X5 with the oversized rear lights, but on the X7, they've integrated them nicely across the entire back with that chrome strip that goes from one side to the other. It just looks more cohesive. So the grille, even though it is kind of ridiculously large, kind of works. And look at what Lexus has done with their massive grilles. People seem to give them a pass. So on the looks, it really is subjective. You're gonna have to really want to have this looking like this in order to buy one, and a lot of money. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, the looks are subjective, but it looks much better in person than I initially thought. So that's one thing. So BMW brings out a brand new X5, and at the same time they develop an X7. And you're thinking to yourself, what took you so long? Mercedes-Benz has had the GLS for years, decades even, and finally BMW is coming with a proper 3-row, 7 or 6 passenger vehicle for an entire family, instead of the X5, which had terrible 3rd-row seating. And there are a lot of similarities between the X5 and this X7. You pay about $20,000 more to get this X7, but you do get a couple of standard features. Like, of course, you get the 3rd-row seats, and the air suspension that's optional on the X5 is standard here on the X7 because that's what Mercedes has. Mercedes has a standard air suspension, so they've definitely tried to marry it up with what people are looking for. Now let's get into the functionality of this, because why do you buy a vehicle of this size? To move people around. So yes, they've done a good job being late to the party. You learn all the dance moves, so they have come up with a seating system that works well, and there's plenty of room for everybody. So this particular unit here has the captain's chairs. You can opt for a bench seat in the 2nd row or get the captain's chairs. You have a one-touch system to move the seat forward to get access into the back. I like that. However, they're really slow. So for little kids jumping in and out of the back seat, it might seem like it takes a long time, but they do work. In addition, there's switches here on the door if you want to operate the 2nd row seats, moving them back and forth. And even at the rear, at the very back of the cargo area, you can drop the 3rd row of seats down automatically, and you can slide the 2nd row of seats fore and aft to get more space for getting people in and out, also for taking more cargo space. And the way these seats have been designed is that you can keep a car seat tethered in the 2nd row of seats and still slide the seats forward without having to take that 2nd row of seats out. Now, if you opt for these captain's chairs, you don't really need to move anything at all. You just, walk through between the 2 seats. And on size, that 3rd row really is useful for adults. So it's good. It's what you want in this size of vehicle. You want to be able to take there's 6 or 7 people across 3 rows of seats and do it comfortably, and I think mission accomplished. Now, like a lot of vehicles of this size with this design, the cargo area with the seats up is not that big. The real leader in this space, pardon the pun, is the Atlas from Volkswagen. It is so big for all 3 rows, and it has a big cargo space even with that 3rd row of seats up. Okay, before we get into the front, let's talk about what's powering this. Just like the X5, it's offered with 2 engines, an inline 6-cylinder turbo and a twin turbo V8, a 4.4 liter. Now, having driven the X5 with the inline 6-cylinder engine, in that configuration, I think that is the right engine to get, because with 335 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque, it hustles the X5 along. It feels nimble, it feels light, it feels like it's the perfect engine for the job and can move it along to 100 kilometers an hour in just 5.5 seconds. When you get that same engine in this X7, it doesn't feel as quick. You notice the weight of the vehicle, and it makes a run to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.1 seconds. Now, people buying these vehicles are not out to set land speed records, but I think if you're going to buy this size of vehicle, you definitely want to consider opting for the V8 engine if you're going to be doing a lot of passing on the highway or a lot of, trips with it loaded down with people. And there is a big difference in power. So that 4.4 liter V8 pumps out 456 horsepower, but 479 pound-feet of torque. Now that is a big difference. So if it's power you want, passing power, cruising along through the mountains with a family full of people, that's probably the one to get. Because if you can afford that, you can afford the gas. And we'll get to the price in a moment. Now, as I mentioned, this X7 comes standard with the air suspension. Optional features, you can get the chassis control that has actuators on the suspension to counteract tilt and pitch in corners. So that's something you might want to consider. It also has the availability to add rear steering if you are in tight spots and you park in parking lots all the time, something definitely to consider. But I would think that this vehicle, the way it comes with the standard air suspension, is going to please a lot of people. And air suspensions are really good at making vehicles cushy and soft. So just like the Mercedes-Benz GLS, this too can be very soft and supple, but you have, with the switch of a button here, the ability to put it into a firmer suspension setup. But here again, you do notice the difference in weight and size of this X7 in comparison to the X5. You can feel that it's heavier, you can feel that it's bigger, and you can feel the mass of the vehicle in the corners and accelerating. So that's what we're working with, but it makes it still a very rewarding SUV to drive. I have to tell you that I have thoroughly enjoyed driving this. So it's not as dynamic, it's not as quick, it feels bigger, it feels softer, but that's kind of what you want in this size of vehicle. Do I want a really edgy utility to move around 7 people? No, I want it to be comfortable, smooth and relaxed, but I want the power when I do need to pass. That's why you have the BMW badge on the front, because you're expecting to get something when you really ask for it. So if that's the case, once again, I think the V8 is the way to go. But you know what? If you're just plodding around town, taking it easy, you're not in a rush, the inline 6-cylinder is going to do the job. I'm going to pull over here for a second because I want to talk about the interior and what you get. So the functionality is there. 3 rows of seats, captain's chairs, as I mentioned. But moving forward, it's identical to the BMW X5. You get the 2 large screens, 12.3 inches each, one behind the steering wheel for the instrument cluster, the other one for the iDrive system. The instrument cluster, I didn't mention it in the X5 review because I didn't want to say something out of turn and get it wrong. So I checked after I had that vehicle, and then I checked with this X7, and both of them have the same digital look, which is quite nice, but the center of the screen is not as configurable as other brands. Like Audi, for example, it's configurable and you can change the way it looks. With this, you're kind of locked in to the instrument cluster with the speedo and the tach, and you really can't change much in the center except turning the navigation on or off. So it's basically navigation in the middle or nothing. That really is limiting there. But the other side of this is the iDrive system in the head unit, and I said it in the X5 review, and I'll say it again, and other people commented on the video and disagreed with me, but I think that this is the industry standard for premium products. When you're using a wheel control system here and using the screen at the same time through that, it's the easiest and most intuitive to use. It was terrible when it came out years ago. Now it's the best. Swarovski crystal shifter in the center. Why? I know why, because this is targeted at the Asian market, And that's the kind of stuff that people in Asia go crazy for. Swarovski crystal, I think that's exactly who it's targeted after. One thing I love, I didn't mention in the X5, it did have it as an option, is the heated or cooled cup holders. I first experienced this in the Mercedes-Benz GLE a few years ago, and now it's available here. I like it. I've had my Starbucks going, and it keeps it warm, or if you have a cold drink in there, it keeps it cool. I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch it over and put my water bottle, because it's a very hot day here today, so I'll put it on cool. It's great. Just keeps that little bit of heat or a little bit of chill in your drink as you go along. You've got the redundant controls for the heat and the radio switches in the center, which is nice. You don't always have to dive into the controller to change things, especially for heat, which I particularly like. But the rest of the cabin is beautifully finished. You've got this big panel roof. Oh, by the way, at the third row when you get in, there's actually a little sunroof back there. You can open and close it from the third row of seats. You've got a control panel there for heat, and you have a control panel for the sunshade for that little panel roof. That's great. I don't think I remember another vehicle that has that, but the fact that it goes all the way over 3 rows, that's pretty cool. Okay, have you got your seatbelt on? Here comes the price. It starts at $92,500 for the one I'm driving here. This particular one has a $15,000, it's called the Premium Excellence Package, and it has all kinds of different things in there. So the price on this particular one is $111,000. But wait, there's more. If you get the V8 version, the 50i, it starts at basically where this top loaded one leaves off at $111,000. So this is a premium product for a premium price tag, and Mercedes-Benz has just updated their GLS. I haven't driven that one yet, but it's going to be arriving anytime soon. So BMW and Mercedes battle it out for price. Right now the GLS is a little less expensive than this product, but I bet you when they come up with their new version, they'll announce the price, and it's probably going to be right on the money with this. So there you go. It's the BMW X7. Not inexpensive. And is it worth $20,000 more than the same X5 with the same engine? Do you think it is good looking? What do you think of the design? Do you think the grille looks good or looks ridiculous? Do you think that this is going to sell better than Mercedes-Benz GLS? These are all good questions. I think that it's definitely going to sell. I think that, is it worth 20 grand more than the X5? I don't think so, but I don't think I would ever spend this amount of money on a people mover. There's a lot of other vehicles to move a lot of people around that are less expensive than this. So there you go, the BMW X7. Tell me what you think. Car Cost Canada provides the dealer cost, a list of rebates, plus discounted interest rates. The link is in the description below.